Welcome to the Cayman's Island podcast, where we talk all things San Francisco 49ers. I'm your host, David Cayman. And the question today is, guys, is it fair to put the outcome of the 2025 season squarely on Kyle Shanahan? My thoughts next. Let's get it. Yeah, I've put a lot of thought into this. Now that essentially the full off season, you might as well say, over and done with. We have training camp coming up very soon. We kind of have an idea of who's going to be there, who's going to be in the building. There was a big time emphasis on making sure that there's no drama going into training camp so we could really just talk football. No contract questions, all that's out the way. Players that players we wanted to extend are signed in the building. Outside of injury, everybody's here. Everybody's motivated. It appears everybody's ready to go. So is it fair to say that regardless of the outcome of the season, it's all on Kyle? When you break this thing down, I think it has to fall squarely, solely on Kyle Shanahan's shoulders. I know that Brock just got a contract extension, and anytime you pay a quarterback and you pay a quarterback top 10 money, there's definitely going to be eyes on Brock, analyzing his performance. Did he deserve the contract? Did he deserve the money, et cetera, et cetera? But we all know that Kyle is the quasi GM of this team. He makes all the decisions. Seriously, he gets to choose personnel, make the draft. Basically the team is managed by Kyle. And you look at the biggest move, in my opinion, made this offseason was bringing back Robert Saleh. Robert being back in the building instantly improves that defense just with his common sense approach of mixing things up, not being very stale back there. And I really feel like the defense is going to be much more improved. Having anyone else be the special teams coordinator is going to pay dividends. If you think about the 49ers having a 50% better special teams and a 50% better defense, I think that's going to turn into 4 or 5 wins, additional wins this year as compared to last year. When you look at 2024, there were really times where Kyle Shanahan was extremely stubborn. It almost seemed like to me that he knew that this was going to be Deebo Samuel's last ride. And he did everything in his power to feature Deebo, get Deebo involved, even on plays that haven't worked in a season and a half. This whole running Deebo out of the backfield. I mean, Deebo lost a step. It's clear to see. Not that if he got the ball in space, he can't still be effective, but it took him a while to get ahead of steam. And I feel like Kyle was very stubborn in his approach, trying to make sure that he got his guy, Deebo, involved. Look, and I love Deebo, but the reality is this is the NFL, and you get paid to win football games. I was hoping that Kyle would have learned last year not to run CMC in the ground as soon as he came back. And what does Kyle do? It's like CMC returns, after his 10 games away, and it's instantly there's no other running back on the team but CMC. And that's a problem. I think Kyle, I don't know if Kyle was trying to prove something to himself last season. I mean, maybe behind closed doors, Kyle knew that last year just was not going to be it for the 49ers in general, and just stuck to his guns on his philosophies. And that just did not pan out. Going into this year, I feel like if we're realistic, no, I don't feel like this is a guaranteed Super Bowl contender by any stretch. But I will say this. The Niners have the easiest schedule in football. If the Niners can return to 75%, 70% of their 2023 selves, could they win? Could they win 10 games, make the playoffs, make some noise? I actually have this team winning 12 games. I really do. It was hard to imagine a scenario where the Niners looked as bad as last year. Maybe I'm making some bad assumptions on the injury front. Maybe I'm making some bad assumptions about what I think Brock's going to do based on the opponents that are going to be faced this year. But it was hard for me to find where the Niners would lose 5 games. And I really tried to break it down, really tried to analyze where I thought the Niners would fall. Kyle is going to have to come out hot out of the gate with some fresh ideas. Debo's gone. Ayuk's not going to be completely healthy. Who knows when he's going to come back? Maybe he comes back in October. BA seems very disgruntled. I don't know if right now, bless their heart, wide receivers are kind of that diva position as it is, and maybe BA is going through some of that right now. I'm not sure. I know there's been a lot of tweets out there, things that went down that he's not happy about, and look, I get that. I really do. But at the end of the day, I feel like the best case scenario for both parties is that BA and the 49ers reconcile and bring this thing back together, if nothing else for at least this season. It's going to be in the best interest of the Niners with what they've paid BA. It's going to be in the best interest of BA to come out and show that, the beginning of last season up until that injury was just a fluke, and he comes out locked in and ready to go. I know it's tough coming off the knee. I get that. But I think that if he ultimately wants to go somewhere else and go play for, not a Cleveland Browns, not a New England Patriots. That's right now, I know New England used to be a dynasty and a powerhouse, but right now that's where Cleveland and New England seems like it's the place his career is end now, right? So with all that being said, it's absolutely, positively 110% on Kyle. Kyle has to break out of this stubbornness. He's got to come up with some fresh ideas. We need some new wrinkles. If we come out there week 1 against Seattle and we're giving Christian 25, 30 touches in that game, I think that's a precursor for some really bad news come about week 6, week 7. We've got to get some wrinkles out here. We've got speed now, guys. We've got some wideouts with some 4-3 speed. We've got guys, Brock's been working with these guys in the offseason. I'm looking for big things for Ricky Pearsall. I know he's hurt. It's not going to be anything that's going to keep that man out of camp. We've got to do some bubble screens, some play action. We've got to mix some things up. We cannot come out there. There were a couple of games last year where that legitimately had me scratching my head. I was screaming at the TV saying to myself, man, plug in an Xbox controller so I can take over this offense and mix some of these things up. Then you would have situations where Kyle would essentially get some common sense back in kind of in his brain. You look at the Bears game, it was like, whoa, this looks like a Kyle Shanahan offense. You look at the first half of the game against the Detroit Lions, it's like, okay, where has this creativity been all season? I've talked to a few fans of other NFL franchises, and there seems to be a common theme about last season, especially toward the end of the year. Now, by no mistake am I not putting a lot of that on Brock Purdy's shoulders. When Brock tried to press really hard toward the end of the year, he started to flounder. I can admit that, I'm going to put that on Brock Purdy. But I'm talking about solely from a team management perspective. The fact that Jake Moody missed all those kicks, man, and we didn't bring in some more competition, or, you could see that the man wasn't right from injury. Bring back one of those other kickers that didn't miss any field goals at all. Fire your special teams coordinator. I mean, the special teams was atrocious. Make a move, mix things up, stand up at the podium and say, yes, our defense is absolutely dog water. I'm going to start working with the D coordinator, mixing some things up, changing some things. I look at anybody that's got a career that has a profession. If you're performing poorly and it's blatant, you would attempt to try to make some changes, mix some things up, do some things differently. Sorry, I got off on my tangent, but going back to it, I talked to some fans of some other NFL franchises, and they feel like Kyle was actually almost throwing games toward the end of the year for the just stubborn play calling, refusal to mix things up. Sometimes you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, maybe this staff that I help assemble is not getting the job done. Now you fast forward into 2025. You got the belle of the ball defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. We know what he's going to do. We know what he's going to bring to the table. Barring injuries, I think the Niners have a top 10 defense, blindfolded, without even... I think we're fine. I think the Niners will have a top 10 defense just by Robert being there, implementing his scheme, perfecting some things, mixing some blitzes up, putting personnel in the best spot. There you go. So now it's going to fall on Kyle, this offensive genius, the offense that's spread around the NFL like a wildfire, right? So here's the brainchild, the mastermind of this system. Kyle, you can't miss the playoffs here. You missed the playoffs, and I know this is a hot topic of debate. People feel like, oh yeah, Kyle's safe regardless of what happens this season. I don't think that's the case, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I really feel like, man, if you got a situation where you got a top 10 defense and that offense comes out looking stagnant and dull every game, and you got Robert Saleh, who's been a head coach now, a Robert Saleh who, if he messes around and has a top 5 defense, will folks not start picking up the phone to try to get this man to be a head coach again? I felt bad for Saleh, man, having to go to the Jets. I almost feel like, man, imagine if he would have got an opportunity to be out there like with the Bears. If he got an opportunity to go somewhere where if he had an opportunity to go somewhere that I feel actually had a legitimate chance of doing something, I think things would have turned out really a lot better for him. And I feel like if you're sitting there at the end of the season and you've won only 8-9 games, missed the playoffs, the offense sputtered, I get that more than likely a lot of that's going to fall on Brock Purdy. But guess who made the call to extend Purdy, to make him the franchise guy? That falls on the head coach, guys. So Kyle, good luck, man. I, as a diehard 49er fan for years and years and years and years and years, I'm rooting for you. You start mixing things up, getting back to old Niner football, I'll be the first one to sit up here on this podcast and apologize, congratulate you. I am rooting for you. I want you to, this season, I want you to be such a good offensive play caller that Parag, that John Lynch, that all you guys get another 5-year extension, and I can delete this video from the YouTube archives, right? Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you think I'm being too hard on Kyle Shanahan? Do you think that if perhaps Brock Purdy comes out here and just lays an egg that Brock can end up being the scapegoat or somebody else. I just feel like it's all on Kyle. If this team doesn't make the playoffs with this schedule and he's supposed to be this mastermind, I think heads are going to roll. And I do think a mutual parting of ways could happen. If you like what you saw today, please remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Take care and be blessed.